Hello there. Today I'm taking a look at a Vin de France Syrah. It's a wine from southern France. It's produced by Paul Jaboulet Aine. It's the 2021 vintage of this. So those of you who watch these videos regularly are probably quite used to me mentioning the fact that Jaboulet is a long-established company, founded in 1834 by Antonie Jaboulet, taken over by his sons, I believe, Henri and Paul Jaboulet, the older son, Paul Jaboulet Aine, after which the company is now named. Under family ownership, the company went through various ups and downs, went through some troubled times, and in 2006 was purchased by the Frey family, and Jean-Jacques Frey and his daughter Caroline, who's a well-qualified oenologist, who runs, amongst other properties, Chateau La Lagune in the Médoc, took over the estate. They were able to invest in the winery and the vineyards and have really transformed the business significantly. As well as having their own vineyards and making domain wines, a large part of the Jaboulet business is the production and sale of négociant wines. And you can tell when a wine is a négociant wine because it will simply say Paul Jaboulet Aine on the label rather than Domaine Paul Jaboulet Aine. The other giveaway is on the back label. It will say Mise en bouteille par Paul Jaboulet Aine. So these are wines that are purchased, are blended and bottled by Jaboulet. Now the wine production may well be specified by Jaboulet and they may have quite a lot of control over that, but this is not coming predominantly from their own vineyards. The range of Vin de France wines, there are two of them. You may have seen a previous video I made about a Viognier that's also marketed as a Vin de France. Appears to be a relatively new departure, dating back to about sort of 2013, 2014. And I think this may well be part of the improvements Caroline Frey has been putting in to the production of the wines here, trying to produce some good value varietal wines with mass market appeal. So I suppose really putting the Jaboulet name on it, saying that the company's based in Hermitage on the front label, leads us to wonder whether this is a wine that's going to offer the style or the quality of Hermitage or even Crozes Hermitage at just a fraction of the price. The notes I've seen suggest that this cuvée blends wines from the Languedoc with others from the Rhône. The notes suggest that the fruit comes off vineyards with various terroirs. However, further along, it suggests that the soils are limestone and clay, sort of not suggesting a huge variety. So I don't know if the soil note refers to a principal vineyard or whether that covers all the vineyards here. The notes also say that vine age is 20 years. 20 years is the sort of age where a vine reaches its full root extension and increasingly starts to produce lower yields of more concentrated fruit. The wine's 100% Syrah. We're told it's picked at night, so presumably using machine harvesters. And this is done because this is a warm climate region and the coolest part of the day will probably be from about 2 o'clock in the morning onwards. And picking in these cool conditions ensures that the fruit retains as much of their aromas as possible. It's not promoting oxidation in the period before the fruit reaches the winery. Presumably they'll follow the same approach that Jaboulet do elsewhere, and they'll destem and crush the fruit. It then goes into stainless steel tanks for fermentation. Presumably these are temperature controlled to slow the ferment and allow the retention of the perfumes, of the aromas of the fruit. For extraction, they'll pump over once a day, evidently, and the fermentation and maceration will go on for 2 weeks. At the end of this period, the wine will be drained off the remaining solids and goes into stainless steel tanks to mature for 6 months prior to bottling. Presumably the wine will undergo malolactic conversion, but it sees no oak whatsoever during its aging period. The producers suggest the wine is best drunk in its first 3 to 5 years, so this is not a wine intended for long aging. So let's see how the quality and the wine's character stack up to the other wines in Jaboulet's range. Looking at the wine, there's a really quite respectable depth of colour. It's not quite opaque, but I do actually have to search for the stem of the glass as I look down through it. It's a sort of a dark, almost black, ruby colour. There's a vibrancy to the colour, you know. It's a young, seemingly quite energetic wine. As I swirl the wine, it has 13.5% alcohol, and it's forming some quite obvious tears on the side of the glass there, and they're sort of slowly running down there. So a relatively good body and viscosity. So let's see what we make of the aromas, shall we? the aromas are surprisingly complex. They start off initially with quite a lifted, almost sort of raspberry, loganberry sort of note, hints of blackberries perhaps. And then you get sort of more deep, dark red through to black plum, damson, bullace, those sort of notes. There are hints of spice. There's a touch of meatiness there. So in terms of classic aromas that you'd be looking for from a Syrah, this is ticking most of the boxes very well. So let's have a taste, shall we? The wine has a nice weight, it's medium to full bodied. Actually, there's a lovely freshness. You do get those initial delicate red fruit, sort of raspberry, loganberry, mulberry sort of notes. Lovely and juicy. It's a delicate perfumes dancing around the edges of the palate. And they're surrounding a core of dark, black, plum, damson, bullace, those kind of darker fruit notes that are heading towards a sort of a sweet licorice, a sort of Pontefract cake sort of core there. The intensity is good. I mean, the wine is of mid-weight to mid-concentration. It doesn't have particularly gripping tannins. There's a little grip. There's a tiny touch of spice. It's not really particularly peppery, which you might be looking for from Syrah. But otherwise, there's an awful lot of the classic notes that I'm looking for. The alcohol at 13.5% is adding weight and roundness to the back palate, but there's enough fruit that it stops it from dominating the finish, and again those delicate red fruits can come through and give the wine pretty good length. I'm not getting the complexing aromas and structure that you'd get had the wine seen a bit of oak. As such, I suppose the fruit is a little soft and maybe not particularly well defined on the mid palate. But there's pretty good concentration. There's a velvety richness and smoothness that's very attractive, and the wine's freshness gives quite a reasonable length to the finish and some lovely lifted perfume touches. I don't think I can honestly claim that this is a wine that rivals the quality of any of the wines from Hermitage, but it is a wine that's giving some lovely typical Syrah characteristics, and a wine that actually has quite a lot of complexity and interest for a wine in its price range as an entry-level varietal Southern French Syrah. I think it's a wine that would give a fair number of Côte d'Arones quite a good run for its money, and I can see that it's offering similar value for money to what you'd expect to see from reasonable Languedoc Syrahs as well. Looking at our critics aggregated score for this, there aren't many scores to aggregate, but across the vintages this gets an 87 out of 100. Maybe a little bit harsh. I might have said it was worth an 88 or an 89, but I don't think it's particularly far off being. The various vintages of the wine have also earned silver medals, bronze medals, and has been commended in wine competitions as diverse as India's Wine Awards, the Japan Wine Awards, the Sakura Awards, and the International Wine Challenge. For everyday drinking, I think it's a perfectly acceptable wine. I don't think it's a wine that would benefit from aging at all. In fact, I think most of its elegance comes from its perfume, and you'd lose that if you kept it for too long. However, I do think it's great value for money, so it could be well worth exploring. Thank you so much for joining us. I do hope you've enjoyed the tasting. If you have, it would be fantastic if you'd press the like button. If you'd like to watch more of these tastings, we'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to our channel, maybe even set yourself an alert so that you can be notified every time we publish a new video. If you have any comments, do please leave those in the comments box below. We would be genuinely interested in your feedback. We'd love to know what you think of these wines, what you think of the tastings we're doing, or anything else that relates to that. If you have friends you think might like to watch the video, do please feel free to pass it on to them. That would be absolutely fantastic. I will leave a link in the comments box so that you can follow that to the Wine Searcher website and the page that we have for this particular vintage of this wine, and you can see where it's available, what its pricing is. You can follow up and see any background detail we have on the wine. You can see its price history, you can see the awards it's won, and the critics' notes. So thank you once again for joining us, and I do hope that perhaps you'll be able to make some time and come and join us for another tasting in the very near future. Thanks again. Bye till then.